Now we are going into chapter 15. Right, chapter 15 describes what is a person who want to practice Tao, or how should a person who want to practice Tao develop certain characteristic of behavior, or the way to become a person who want to live simply and following the path of the Tao. So this is chapter 15. Okay, let me read in Mandarin. 第15章，古之善为道者，微妙玄通，深不可视。夫为不可视，故强为之容。欲兮若东涉川，欲兮若卫士陵，言兮若客，涣兮若冰之将兮，敦兮其若朴，旷兮其若谷，混兮其若浊。孰能美以礼之于民？孰能浊以静之除清？孰能安以动之怡身？保此道者，不欲盈。夫为不盈，故能闭而心诚。Alright, so starting in beginning, he introduced that he want to describe, what is a person who seek the path, or the person who seek Tao. He says it's very difficult to describe, so he tried to describe. So try, right? He didn't say he knows, he tried, and in a very difficult form, he tried his best to describe. So he painted a picture of a person that is walking in the winter across a huge river or canal or something like that. Chuan is the biggest river you can ever find in that form. So every step, becomes very dangerous, because if it cracks, you will drop in, and that's the end of you, right? If you can't find where to get up and save yourself, right? So it's a very dangerous scene, So, and then he say, when you live and you look around your neighbors and all that, you are very fearful or very careful, with your neighbors. And then if you are the visitors, you become very also again in a careful mood, so that you do not anger the host, right? So it's as if you go to a new place, so you have to be very careful, very alert, very accommodative, right, to the places that you're visiting, or the host that is hosting you. And then he goes to the next part where he said, if he described again, when the ice slowly become water, there's a changing moment, right? When the ice melt and become water, right? So he described a state of between something that, the ice could be a metaphor for something that is very hard, very glittering, and then when it becomes water, what happens? It becomes something that's flowy, something is not catchable, something, its form cannot be seen, right? And you can't even look at it as something that is like treasure, because it's going to just slip off to the lower ground. So here it describes a state of mind where from the most highest point, or form, that you should be as simple as possible or appear as simple as possible. So it describes a few of this state, right? The other one is, if you are so knowledgeable, but you should appear that you are as narrow as the valley, that is not like horizontal, you are deep in the valley, right? So if you are wide, you appear to be as deep as the valley instead of, as wide as you want. And then if you should be so muttered in a certain way, right? Or you should keep yourself always in a state of bewilderment. That means, as if you are clouded, not so clear. Because if you're so clear, then you appear to know. But in this form, as a Tao, Tao is always in a very muttered form, a very clouded form. Because in this clouded thing, that's where you can be very clear. Or you want to be very clear. Or you inhibit the idea that you want to clarify yourself all the time, to clear yourself, So if you think you're clear already, would you clarify yourself constantly or purify yourself, purify the water constantly? No. So in a state of cloudiness is where your state is, but you are always clarifying, you are always purifying, right? So he said, if everything is dark and everything is clouded, you will look for a way out of this to see some light, So apart from that, he said, during this clouded moment, right, you should be still. So it's in this stillness that you could see and find clarity. That means if everybody jumping around, getting hysterical, all the more you should keep still so that you could see clearly who is jumping, who is doing what. Instead of you jumping, you couldn't see anything because your sight is always jerky, always clouded with movement. So in this chaos, you should be as still as the water so that you can see clearly, right? And you should have a peaceful life, a calm life, right? To counter a life that is always moving, always changing, right? Always happening, and that could be a way of life, or a way of life of the Tao, or the person who want to practice Tao. And all the while, you must be half-filled. That means all the while, you are looking for something, you are seeking, you are clarifying, you are purifying. So there is where you will always be new and or renew again, reinvent again, because there's always something that you're seeking, right? There's always something that you need to clarify. There's always more stillness that you want to find, more peace that you want to find. So this is how this passage describes a way towards a simple life, a way towards a peaceful life, a way that one can, to a certain, can hide away from all this chaos that we are seeing. Yeah, that is why in some of the words that when the world is so chaotic, one has to be in a form where we can find stillness in us, and in a certain way, it's a way to hide, a way to, it's not exactly hide, but in the Chinese word it's called yin. Yin means you can be calm even in chaos. So there's a very famous one, he says, 小隐隐以三，大隐隐以四. So the person who want to find Tao, he can go to the mountain also, but that is considered a simpler form of looking for Tao. But a bigger form or a more difficult form of looking for Tao is to find Tao or become a Tao or a practitioner of Tao in the city, because in the city you have all kinds of things, you know. You got the most expensive clothes to the cheapest clothes, you got the most expensive food to the cheapest food, so you got everything in town. So in all these glittering things, all these things that distract you, and if you still can practice Tao and be a Tao, the path of Tao, right, it's good, right? So it makes it more difficult. So great difficulties come with more hardening of the person who want to practice Tao, right? So this is chapter 15, right? See you in chapter 16.